A little naval guesswork game here. We're still in Mohawk. We should turn this up so we can see the beautiful cover. I think is actually a very important factor in the game in terms of determining what forces you get. It doesn't bother me, but it and the die rolls that come off of it. So again, the French tried to slip their troop convoy in with the +1, and again, the English, they just can't risk not blockading. So we got an English success there again. I'm going to have to learn not to put that there. Just put a squadron in there. Try to beat the English off. Anything else seems foolish. Big bad privateer wins against the English troop convoy. It's not slipping in this time. The French win with their squadron. And then this last one's not gonna, it's a big British success. Looks like. So, we get 2 more British regulars with their squadron. 2 French regulars with their squadron. That's nice. We haven't been seeing French regulars showing up in too large a quantity. The privateer, I don't know what to do with that, but the English naval squadron over here means we've got another load of regulars coming in, and that's probably going to hit Quebec. You have to remember, I don't need a whole hell of a lot. Quebec and Montreal, and that's it. You know, there's nothing else really in between there that I'm terribly interested in. But I think by gaining control of the St. Lawrence Seaway, I think that's my best route for the English, as opposed to trying to deal with more inland advances facing the Iroquois here. Mainly I just need to prevent them from taking Albany and New York, well, New York or something like that. I've got to throw enough forces up there to defend that area. Okay. The privateers, they're the special ones, and I have to look them up all the time. So that can either be a big swoop of Indians, which, you know, I might be able to push down. There's not a lot in the way right now. New York looks open. Yes, they may be able to, the English may be able to take it back, but they've got nothing defending it except for Rogers' Rangers up here in Albany. I think that's probably my best move, because I just don't see too much in terms of securing a long-term defense. On the other hand, better for the long-term defense would be to throw some militia up here. Now the word muster is weird, right? Because muster over here means gathering forces, not seemingly off map. Whereas here, it's out of the counter mix. The muster part being, I guess, that you get to place them wherever the hell you like. So here's a hard choice. Do I take the shot at winning the game, making it down to New York? And will the English be able to take one of New York or Albany back, in addition to maybe gaining the ground for a win, or at least gaining Quebec? That's a hard call. But I think I'm going to go for that route. No guts, no glory, right? So let's see what we can do. We did the Indian muster here. The problem we have is we can't sweep down into New York or Boston very easily. Maybe the Corps de Bois can make it down here because they're not limited. Remember, the regulars can only spend 2 march points a turn. So march here to here, then here to here could get us to Boston, and that's good enough. So maybe we can make it, maybe we can't. I'm going to be rolling 2 dice, so red for the natives. I threw my regulars here into Quebec. Oh, wait, I get my muster. That happens at the beginning of the movement. I think after I roll a dice is what I've decided. Lots of points. Alright, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to muster out all these militia. And where are they going to go? Well, this is not a terrible place, is it? I could sail down to New Haven for a second, but that doesn't sound terribly good. So I'm going to pull them up here. In a sense, I could probably move out anyway of my forts, but that's okay. Because I really don't think I have the kind of force to take everything here. So let's start with these forces. These are going to be my normal Indian move, I guess. I gotta send all the natives in one direction. So they're gonna go to here, except for the Iroquois. I'm gonna send a couple Iroquois here. I'm gonna take one more here just for a little bit more power. And then I'm gonna march down to Boston. So that was, I think, 2 of my Indian moves. I've got free Indian moves that'll get me to here. Still have one more left. Nothing much I can do with that. And then here, well, first thing I want to do, I've got a fort already there. I got to worry about the possibility of the Brits kind of pushing up towards Montreal on their own. So, one, 2, I can go to here. Do I want to destroy those forts? Not really. I can leave them up there. The Brits can capture them and they'll be useful to the Brits. Well, I don't have much else to do with my points. I'll burn them. Take them out of the British hands. You know, if I do end up back in that direction, it'll be less of a problem. Alright. So that moved some of these, but I want to get, say, a couple of these into play here at Saint-Jean. And that cost me 1 movement to get there, and I'm going to spend another one to build the forts. And that's going to be my fights. Now this again sets me up in a position where I could conceivably win the game with the French. I didn't think I was going to be in this position, but with that whole move into Louisburg, well, might as well try for it again. So actually Boston falls with no problem, and now we're going to see about the Albany fight, and that should be pretty easy. Rogers Rangers, you know, aren't going to be able to hold that forever. They're actually not even advantaged defending a fort. The only thing that are regulars. The natives pushed up to the fort to begin with because they can't possibly hit, and I took Rogers Rangers and withdrew them to Hartford. Therefore this is captured, and actually because the natives do better in the forested area, they're going to burn the fort down and take it. And well, now it's our English side, and we got a bunch of stuff to drop on the board, it looks like. These are both French, they can go away. We got a couple of regulars, and we got the possibility of sea lift. I want the regulars here because I'm going to try to move them either up to Albany, if that looks like the best possibility, or more likely I'm going to just take on all these tribals here. I'm already set up to launch decent sized forces into play there. I'm going to do, of course, my muster. Actually, I get to see that after the die roll. So, let's see. Let's get our troops here in the port. I don't feel like we have the kind of force to push into Quebec. Destroying some of these native forces is probably our best move. The long game goes in England's favor as far as I can see. There's no real reason for me to try to take a quick stab at victory, although possibly if I have extra marches, maybe I'll head up towards Quebec to put more threat on it. But let's see what we get here. Okay, we get a pair of 5s. Oh, I forgot to gather these. Hopefully I have nothing here. Okay. So we have nothing too exciting to being able to fight in the wilderness. We're really, the English kind of got the advantage of having the Iroquois to help them handle that wilderness fight. We're going to have a lot of trouble coming down from here until, as we can see, the natives kind of peter out completely from the war. So, I guess our best chance, I think, is hitting the fort. This is a hard call, because these guys, the defensive advantage of the fort does cut into our firepower, but it's worse for the natives, I think. So I'm going to spend 1. Is there a stack size limitation? I don't seem to remember that there is. I may be confusing this with something else, but so many damn games. We're going to march into Boston. This is a must-win situation, though, now. Now for this, well, I might want to reverse my plan and hit Quebec. What the hell? I probably have enough troops to sail some in and move up here. Does sea lift prevent me from other movement? No, extra actions take more movements. That's all. So you know what? Instead of spending that 1, let's just sea lift in there. 1, 2, 3 to drop off. We have a huge army. That drops us to 2. Spend 1 to march into Boston. We're almost assured to win there. It's early. We could attack these natives, but that doesn't sound terribly pleasant to me. I want to leave something here. I'm not sure the French can even get there. Nah, I don't think they can. I think that's mine forever. Yeah, I'm just not seeing a lot of potential otherwise for the English. Rogers Rangers are not doing any good where they are. Shit. And this isn't terribly useful, except as a landing spot. So that's what we'll do. We'll move up there, and we'll drop a fort here, claiming that French territory. That takes up a couple of our actions, and that's fine. And I think we'll just fight. We got one big fight in Boston, and we're almost assured the victory, but let's see what happens. Maybe foolishly, I took my first shot on the beach. Maybe what I should have done was say, okay, my first shot on the beach, I'm going to I can't withdraw from the first fire, so I'm forced to undergo some risk up here. And now the real question is, do I want to fight this second round? I was thinking I could just get out of there. I've done some serious damage to the Brits, actually a pretty good amount, but see, they're going to get shots at +1 each for all those regulars. The militia can't fire, though, so they're going to have to forego their shots. See, the thing is, if I lose my Indians, I don't have much of a threat against the English, forcing them to say withdraw. But on the other hand, if the English can just keep piling more and more regulars into the board, they're better at getting them on the board than the French are. It looks hopeless here. I don't think that I have enough time to delay it out. I think I have to defeat the Brits in a couple of situations. Now, if I win this one, the game's over. That's very tempting, but my chances of doing so are low. Still, there are a lot of natives that I have available for another ploy of this nature. You know, do I want to stand and fight? I definitely have the numerical inferiority, but there's not much I can threaten against the Brits unless I'm grabbing New York or Boston. Albany I can threaten pretty well because of its lousy wooded terrain that the Brits just can't defend that. I think Mr. Logic tells me that the French have to try to withdraw from Boston. And they'll be going back up to Portsmouth, I guess. And try to tie down as much of the British Army on the East Coast as long as possible with the hope that the English will never take the seaway completely. I don't know. And the English win the battle easily, obviously taking no losses as the French are just withdrawing. They take a couple of native losses, and they also, because they lost the battle, allow one of the local militia to turn into something else, and in this case, this 80th Light Infantry, which I think is actually a regular unit being converted. I don't know, but I guess it's reasonable. I don't know. There's a weird sort of situation happening there for colonials to be turning into that, if that's what I think it is. Anyway, that will push us into the second part of 56. Okay, back into 56 here, and I've got to, I think, continue making threats on the British to keep them from being able to destroy the French. Make a quick roll for my movement allowance, and it is not terribly good. Remember, I get 2 extra, which I can move my Iroquois with. The thing is, the big factor here, if I can slip away, is whether or not the Brits can do sea movement. Well, with even a 1, they can do land movement into New York from Boston. That's quick enough. So I don't know if I'm going to have enough movement to push down 1, 2 to Baltimore. Well, I could get to Philadelphia instead. So that's pretty sweet. So that's probably what I'm going to try to do, is lay the threat here with the Delaware and Winnebago. Now I gotta worry about this whole winter thing because it's weird. You know, weather, God, sounds like there's douchebags outside. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's an Indian return that I see at the end of the year, which I find kind of disturbing, to tell you the truth. I think, like the militia, they should have to return to their homes. Just some minor quibbles there, but because they would be able to regather. All right. Of course, the Iroquois wouldn't be able to do that. So, 2 movement points off my red will get me up here into Albany. And now I have additional movement points. I'm going to drop down to Philadelphia. And you know what? I'm only going to send a couple of units there because I don't. If the English don't, if they get lousy rolls, I think I kind of win. So that'll be 1, 2 into Philadelphia, and that'll use up my Iroquois special moves. Elsewhere, I think I'm okay, except Montreal doesn't look terribly threatened. So I'm gonna check Make sure I have a fortress here. I'm going to move down here for one with my militia. And now again, I'm in a position to win the game. Let's see if the Brits can do anything about it. I've got to start learning to lay some garrisons back there so that these cities can't just fall, right? Because otherwise I'm taking a real risk. Now, my sea movement and my land movement are both sufficient that I can handle this issue without too much trouble. I do want to take advantage of my sea movement. That's going to be 2 land movement. Do I want to send more in? Yeah, let's send a little bit more in. Now the question, of course, though, remains, do I want to launch an attack against Albany? Or somewhere else? And what's the somewhere else? I've got a couple of lights, so I'm not terribly bad in the woods. I might be able to wipe the French out here, which would be very, very valuable. If I slide up this way, I can't take the Rangers with me. That's, I think, 2 more movement. Whatever. It's not like I'm going to move other things very much. And then these guys just use 1 to slide up this way. And that restricts the choices for retreat somewhat. Now the question is, do I want to hit the natives? Because I do have enough movement I could slide up, but now I want to be in decent terrain, in a city or a town is good terrain for the end of the year, so I'm okay with that. So I gotta win one of these 2. I didn't end up using my naval movement. I used these guys as rangers. They shouldn't. I had enough movement points. Okay, so I'll slide the boat down to New York in case I'm pushed back. And I'm going to launch, I guess, my attack on Philadelphia first. Put some kind of marker in place so I know what I'm attacking. And as you can see, we've got a fairly hefty number of die rolls, and we've got the bonuses here, but we're facing Iroquois. We have to hit them twice for it to succeed, so they'll probably pull out of there pretty quickly. So the battle for Philadelphia was quickly handled. The Brits ended up taking it without any real advantage, knocking a couple of the Iroquois back. Now here it's a little uglier, because I'm in the woods, and all of the French forces have a bonus there, but there's less hits on the Indians, and also, of course, the pro-French units have less resilience in that if they're destroyed, they're not coming back. The English may or may not. You know, I've got a pool of regulars here. Plus, every year I get another one of these back for these guys, but I've taken enough losses. That doesn't really factor into things. The Brits have already, you know, they can replace one each year, so anything they lose at this point really is a loss. It's just a matter of where I want them to come back. Well, first round we got to fight. Let's see what ends up happening. See, this is after the first round, and the problem is the English have probably taken a little bit more losses. It's hard to tell. But if the English can win an attrition war here in the center, they can strike north. As, I think the requirement, Montreal is enough of a requirement. So as things stand right now, they could take Montreal. Actually, Louisbourg, I think, actually makes it, doesn't it? No, they have to take Quebec or Montreal for this to succeed. But that would force the French to just defend 2 locations, and eventually they will fall under those conditions. So there's a lot to gain for the Brits, and it looks like an about even battle. If the French withdraw, though, they take another shot from the Brits without any response. And to tell you the truth, there's a decent amount for the French to gain by fighting this. So I think I'm going to keep going. I think it's a little bit maybe a bad move for the French, but the idea of constantly falling back is really painful to my way of thinking. To the next round, the English have taken some serious losses here. Their forces are quite reduced. I'm actually thinking about pulling out at this point. Now, they can't do it automatically. The French get some final fire on them. So the question is, where do I throw this? And I'd like to knock out regulars, I guess, over anything else. I'd love to knock this out, but my chance of getting 2 hits, you know, on a 5 or a 6 each is pretty low. With the English falling back from Albany, that's the end of the turn. We go into 1757. I gotta decide where I want my new troops to come. I'll bring them into New York, what the hell. It's not like I have a lot of militia on the board, and they're just getting thrown in here as things that I can rebuild, but militia is really taking a back seat in this game. It's hard to get more of it. There's no automatic growth of militia, which I think is a little unreasonable. I think the militia should be coming up regularly and disbanding kind of regularly. I guess some of that is the, hey, they go back home. But unless you get the right shipping in, you're not going to see militia on the board. And I just don't think that that adequately represents the amount of production that was available in the colonies at this point. Anyway, we're seeing a bunch of these are going to go home. A couple of them. No, they don't go home. They go home if they win a battle, and they didn't win a battle. Pity for them. Yeah, so we're seeing the French kind of holding the line, continuing threats. If the English can't make use of their navies to kind of push forward better than they have been, they may not be able to take the French down in this game. The French got kind of lucky in defeating the British here. If the British had started to win, it would have spelt really bad news for the French in terms of the English beginning to march through that center and really threatening from 2 prongs, because the landing on Quebec looks scary to me unless I get a lot more regulars. And instead I ended up losing some regulars, which, you know, weakens my position overall. Now that Louisbourg's gone, there's basically no differentiation between the different naval operations. So I randomized the French, and the English are going to randomize too. And there really would be no reason to pick one over the other. There's only a very slight reason elsewhere. So let's do our quick matchups here. It looks like the troop convoys are going to get smacked. We got a close fight here and a fairly close one there. I guess I'll roll them off. What the hell? Do them on camera. I think the Brits have a +1 here. They beat the privateers and deliver a couple more regulars. Troop convoy goes, and we get some French regulars. And you can see as the French regulars begin to build up, the job is going to be tougher to take these key locations, which is one reason I guess that it wasn't bad to not try to press my luck here. I can kind of win the fight in the forests and play for time until I have enough forces that, you know, I can withstand that big British advantage early on, I guess. I'm not sure. It's hard to tell. The squadron. You can see the Brits are bringing more in, and then this is the close fight. Let's see what happens. I don't know what happens in case of a tie, but we get the gifts and supplies, which means again we have the same choices with the privateers, which is to pull either a bunch of Indian counters together. Well, there better be a Coeur d'Ivoire here. There is. Or else I couldn't have some of these natives together. I could pull a bunch of natives together, not really anywhere. The only place I could do it is here. I'm not sure that's really worth it. You can see the British have made their commitment here. Well, now, there really isn't a lot of option for the French further than that. So the other choice is to start building up some privateers, I guess. And that'll give us 3 French militia at any point in the original holdings. It doesn't really matter which militia I pick, but I probably want to pick ones from territories that might fall, like Quebec. Do I still hold Saint-Jean? I believe I hold both of the Saint-Jeans. Actually, these guys have all gone home anyway. He can't go home, but I believe he's allowed to go near home. Forgot about that. That these things kind of disperse, and let's see. I don't think I have. Yeah, I do. I have one here at Alexandria, which weakens the New York position, and maybe there's a desire to go in there instead of. In which case, it might make sense to gather up more natives. On the other hand, a bunch of natives isn't really terribly useful at attacking this. Whereas, well, I can't really start a bunch of militia there. The closest jump off space is up here at Fort Levis, or back here at Crown Point. So there really aren't going to be a lot of places where I can get too close. From here, militia aren't going to be able to move too. If I can find the militia movement rules. They move like regulars do, which means they're slowed down on the Indian trails. So that wouldn't be a terribly good place, but from here I could swing down into position. And there's a number of different ways that I could reinforce Albany. Remember, they can only move 2 spaces, so I don't think they can move. Well, this looks like it's all water, so I could jump down from here to here, and then here to here. Appealing. I think I'll probably end up forming a militia group together and launching an attack. This is what? At any point in original holdings, and then I can do the extra militia muster and pull together some of these other forces while I throw regulars into Quebec. I can't throw regulars down here, which sucks. I'd really like to, but it looks like the Brits still have New York not terribly well held. Alternatively, I could march on Boston, but Boston looks like I'm not going to be able to get there easily. Say from here, I'm not going to be able to reach down there. From up here, 1, 2, and then I could get to Hartford, but that's it. This would be the extent of my positioning. I couldn't actually take Boston. So I think probably attacking here with a bunch of militia is going to be my best move. We'll set up for that. So we have a quick stack of 6 militia, the 3 free musters, and then the ones from the chip here. We'll also throw these guys down here in Quebec. I've got some worries about down here. I may have to throw some regulars down to Saint-Jean to defend that, but I want to take my shot at winning the game and keep the British busy over here. Assuming that I roll well enough, which I seem to have done. So my first move is 1, 2, pile them in, drops me to 4. I really don't want to lose Quebec, so I'm going to send 2 infantry here. That's a 1 move. And then, what do I have here? I have some Iroquois. I could throw them in to help this attack, and I think that's overall a good idea. This is still a pretty potent stack here holding Albany. And I don't want to build a fortification in Albany because that'll just make things easier for the regulars. I'm hoping to beat the Brits here and be able to make my way through. So, we got a battle. And with no casualties, the Brits managed to withdraw after one round. They didn't want to stick around for much. That allows troops of the Marine to replace one of the regulars there. I didn't want Courrier de Bois. Got one. Although if that one gets wiped out, there are problems. I don't have any regular Indians here, so we're in pretty good shape. And now the English get to land their forces. And we'll just drop them down here. And again, we're going to be slamming back into New York to try to beat that army. If we win, great things... Well, if we lose, great things happen. The French win the game. If we lose here, or if we win there, well, you know, if the French withdraw, they've managed to pin us for another turn, but they have a fair-sized force there. They might try sticking around. Again, what they have to lose is less here in a sense, being these newly formed militia, but it does kind of open up the pathway if I can brush through the Iroquois, so I don't know. Let's see what the dice are like. If the dice suck, I still get in because a 1 will bring my army across that distance. So I get lots of dice. I don't get a lot of seafaring capability. I think this still stays in New York Harbor. And there really isn't a lot for me to do except jump it all in. Oh, I could have brought my Alexandria troops into play. Alexandria is not even important. It's just the 3 cities that are important. So, and New York's the easiest right now for the French to attack. Of course, they could launch an attack out of Duquesne or some other location. All right, I got tons of regulars here, so the French can't just withdraw right off. If those regulars choose to fire, and they're going to, other units are going to push forward. But the regulars are all going to shoot straight up. So we're going to have at least one round of combat to see whether or not there's much left of the French afterwards, because the numbers are quite strong. After one round, it's pretty certain the English are not going to be, the French are not going to be able to hold the territory against the English. So they might as well withdraw at this point, try to save what they can. Whatever losses they can push on the English don't seem terribly high. We've got like 1 injured unit and that's it. So I guess we'll just take it and pull back to Albany. As we push into the second half of 57, we got the 2 big stacks here facing each other. The French took 2 permanent losses. The English upgraded, putting Rogers Rangers back in play. But that's really about it. So there's not a whole hell of a lot the French really want to do now. A strike to Boston, they could conceivably make. To Philadelphia, maybe. That would be a 1, I guess. I don't know. I think that would only take me down to here. So Philadelphia would be difficult. But New York's the perfect place for the English to be. They can swing to either direction from there. So that's going to cause a bit of a problem. I'm still going to roll the dice, mainly because I should have moved these out of here before. 1, 2. And that's about as far as we can get. And that's about all that they're going to do. Now we're on the English, because I don't want to launch an attack with the French. And I'm in good location. And for the English, we get some big dice, including enough to maybe launch an invasion of Quebec. Or, let's see, this would cost us 1. See, there's really not anywhere we can go with this army other than up to Quebec. We can spend 1 to go there and 2 to go up there. Moving here, though, I think we activate these and end up having to fight them. So we don't really want to do that. Taking Quebec, It's not enough. Launching an attack here doesn't seem wise. But I think taking Quebec is the next step, because chances are we'll be getting more reinforcements again, so we can push more troops in. We've really been kind of lacking in terms of the reinforcements that allow us to take our militia. So I'm going to gather up a group of regulars and send them up there, because 1 to load, 2 to sail, 3 to unload, and we'll send a big force. We should be able to take Quebec. Actually, I spent the extra naval movement to pick up some forces here from Fort Beausejour, and then continue sailing. So it was actually 1 to pick up, 2, 3 to pick up. I can't do that. Shit. See, I just don't like the numbers that I have here. This is what I'm bringing, and it doesn't look like enough. I think I've got enough force, that I can still defend New York, probably. But this looks so risky. I think I'm just going to pass with the English. Collect up more forces. Use my navy. And bring 2 units. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. I can't even pick them up. I'll just settle here. Because I can't risk giving up New York. Now I have to deal with the supply issues, and some of those troops, especially the militia, they're all going to go home. So let me send them back at the end of the year. Okay, so here we are in 1758. I've set up the boats. We've got a tide roll here. This is really, to me, the most exciting part of the game, actually. And it's completely random. The Brits win this one, getting ammunition and supplies. That's going to give them a chance to put lots of militia on the board. And that's actually pretty helpful to them. They have the advantage here and win it. Getting some naval supplies. That'll be 2 more regulars. They actually have a counter mix limit here. The French look like they'll win that one. And of course that probably means that we got a naval squadron up against a French troop convoy, which the English of course win, giving them a couple more. So again, the big troop convoys don't come in. And we gotta figure out what the hell to do with the French. And have I gotten everybody back? I guess the Montreal people ended up dead one way or another in one of the dead pools. There aren't a lot of militia left, and I guess if you run out, you run out, and that's all there is to say about it. At this point, I guess the French are going to get their reinforcements, which will be these extra troops here in Quebec, and that one's going to be an English one. Now I've got to decide what kind of muster I want to do. Again, I'm in the same position where I can't really contest the English directly here. So my goal is going to be to pull troops back away from the borders. The English might want to capture this and garrison it, simply because, well, it doesn't really matter, because the militia will form up somewhere, I believe. The rules, if they can't make it back in the winter, are what? Now this is supposed to cost a march, which I hadn't noticed before. Yeah, there's no mention of the cost here, but apparently, and this is par for the course for these rules, they mention it elsewhere. I don't remember what I'm trying to look up here. Oh, where they return home at the determination. No, see, now this is what I saw before. Oh no, it's from the dead pile. to the countermix here. If they can't come onto their town, they'll return at the end of the year to neighboring points. Okay. You know, if St. Jean falls and Bujor no longer has, well, I guess they could come in up here. I don't know. There's nowhere to live there, but they'd probably still be being supported by the local populace and able to set up there or something. I don't know what happens if there's no neighboring points they can go to. I don't think the game is that specific. So now I have to decide what my muster of my reinforcements is going to be. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw, I'll leave a Quebecer here, I'm going to throw all the units back here so that I can defend the routes to the key locations a little better. I don't know if the French are going to do anything at all. I'll roll some dice and see what they get, but I really doubt it. Pair of threes. What can I do with that? You know, I don't want to launch an attack here. I don't want to position myself in a worse place. So I think I'm just going to pass and say I'm in my defensive position here. And that'll put it to the English, who are going to get a pile of regulars, and they get this adventures and supplies or something, appointments and supplies. That's going to be 4 militia out of the countermix and 2 colonial regulars, which I'll probably put in New York because it can only be in the 3 main cities, Philadelphia, Boston, New York. The reason for that is, well, if I'm going to be doing anything, it's probably from one location. Although, honestly, I may be setting up my regulars up here. I don't know. I'm just not seeing an easy way to cut through the French at this point. And if I'm going to have to fight them, I may just have to bash my way through here. You know, but then they'll just fall back, right? I can't overrun them or anything like that. On the other hand, back here there's a fortification, but there's a good deal of forces. Here, obviously there's a fortification, but I think if I can clear those Indians out of the way, some good stuff could happen. Gotta think. I had enough, I had a 4 movement. I had enough forces down here after mustering the militia here for 1.1, 2 to get them there, and then another attack there. So we're going to go for Quebec here. It's key. If I can take that, I think the whole key to the French seaway is going to be cut off. There's no easy way for the French to get back in there. And then also another chance of busting my way through here, through Albany. Yeah, it's the end of the year, but we got to get some move on. We're running out of time here with the English. It's the beginning of the year. Okay, so the disposition at Albany, big forces facing each other, and the English have doubled up against all the units that take 2 hits. I'm hoping to get a few hits here. I can take losses. The French really can't afford to take real losses. So, well, after 1 round of combat they get to withdraw, but they still get shot at in the 2nd round. So yeah, I'm expecting them to take some hits here. It's hard to tell, but the English took enough hits here that I think the French are going to stick around. Now this could be the doom for them, but on the other hand, I feel like this English force is big enough to shove its way through and probably get Montreal or Duquesne. Granted, it has some difficulty moving over this terrain here, but the French feel like they really do need to pare down the English force, especially since Quebec hasn't been fought yet, and they think they're probably going to lose it. Things are beginning to get pared down, and the French didn't do so well this time, although they did knock out a couple of English units. They also took a couple losses of their own, and they can't really afford one-to-one trade-offs. Although, knocking out the Rangers, well, that's kind of advantageous, because the Rangers are the one thing that can kind of slog through this stuff at a reasonable rate. So I'm not sure. I could take the waterway up, though, as far as Fort Levis. And that would put a real threat right into the place. And there's water routes taking me all the way down the Hudson to New York. So it would really open up things. So I think I've got to pull back. And I'm going to pull everything back to Johnson Hall. But the English get one more shot on the way out. You can see the French stack there looks a lot less formidable. And an attack here in Quebec, and I don't see how the French can hold that either. I think their best chance is to abandon and try to move back to Montreal and really hold the line in one place and try to delay this big regular army from pushing further any quicker. But it does feel like it's just about over. So what the English are going to do is they're going to push these guys forward and fire with their rear rank, trading fire with the French there. See what they can shoot up. Maybe the French will stick around. Maybe we'll get lucky and wipe them out. And, then the routes just open clearly all the way through. And, this actually didn't go too well for the English. The trade-off facing against these regulars, mainly regulars except for the Quebec unit, you'd expect the French would have caused more casualties. They actually caused less. I'm going to try to pull out, but I'm really worried I'm going to get, heavy losses either way, whether I stick around and try to kill some Brits or try to withdraw. But the problem is, even if I win the naval game, I got nowhere to land anymore. The English have taken the entirety of the coastline if Quebec falls. That may make it pointless to try to... It's just such a hard call because the English are going to get reinforcements coming in. They're going to be able to take them right in Quebec. They're going to be able to march forward. They've got me outnumbered. There aren't that many years left. I think I got to stick around and see if I can hold out a little longer. Just start looking worse and worse. Here are our losses. The French took a significant amount of losses, but the English have a number of units that are damaged, and I almost just can't give it up. I gotta keep going. The possibility of wiping out a couple more regulars, I'm sticking a little longer. You can see we did some good damage to the Brits last turn. I hate to do it, but at this point I think I do have to get away. We've done some more damage, but it just doesn't look like we're going to be... Well, we got a couple more regular... Yeah, let's stick another round. I mean, if we win this, it's really very valuable because the English force here will be so weakened, and this force will be able to kind of help defend Quebec against any possibility. But with this thing out here, actually Quebec's not even threatened for this year. There are a couple more rounds. The French are still holding out. I got to keep going. What I can recover from here, even if it survives this round of combat, it's not worth it anymore. Whatever damage I can do is so much more valuable, I think, at this point. What's left are militia, but I can upgrade one of them. I'll take the New Hampshire one. And I'm not going to take Rangers for this, although they might be really important for that space. But I need some semi-regular forces here. Quebec has fallen, but at significant cost to the British regulars. Now, these aren't all regulars, are they? Yeah, they all are. So they're all just coming back. And the French regulars go back in the pool too. Not likely that they're going to be able to get them. Quebec goes over there. It's not going to be raised again. All right. I think that's the end of the British turn, and we'll be pushing into the bottom half of 58. French dice for movement are a little problematic. But here's the thing. I got a bunch of English. Yes, they've got the fortress. But I can sail up and either move down. I could stay where I am and build another fort, buy myself some more space, but I think I'm better off getting another landing by moving into here. It takes one to move all of these forces. What about my natives? Well, here's the problem. I have to figure out what to do with them. The danger, of course, is that the English are going to shift up that way. And I can't allow that. So I'm going to pull into the woods here. I think everything can live here. It's all natives in Cote d'Ivoire. So it kind of blocks the positioning, because otherwise the English can kind of slip around me. Now granted, they can't exist here with that whole force. Most of them would die if that happened. So maybe I don't want to give them Johnston Hall. But they could march up and take it if they want to. So I'm going to go where I'm safe, and we'll see what happens. But we've got this fight for Quebec to see if we can retake it. We'll see how that goes. Approach turn's turning out not that well. I took hits on my regulars and only did one against the Brits. But now we'll continue on, because now I'm up against the wall, so I can actually hit those guys. Now these guys don't have a bonus. Now here it gets more complicated. I'll use a blue for the militia, I guess. Okay, so nothing hit there. And same here. These are regular English, so they're a +2, but the French are +1 actually hit, and I kill one of the regular English, and that's going to allow me to shift some forces. I'll put the 2 regulars here. These guys are against the wall, all of them. So now the English have to kind of hold this. They could run up here, I guess, but that doesn't look like they could stay in supply there, so they're kind of stuck where they are. So let's see what we get here. That's no hits, because there's no bonuses here and there's no bonus there. This other one got 1. Okay, that's not going to hit. That's not going to hit. It's at +2, but one of these will hit, so I get Boston down 1. This is actually a pretty key battle, so I'm rolling it all out. Alright, the French hit and the English hit. Actually, I'll take the Bourgeois. I actually don't want to do that, because that's a unit that I won't be able to rebuild. And then here, it looks like the French are going to finish this unit off. Now, to finish things off, we have one more round. The English do not hit. I'll do the French militia. No idea why I'm doing them first, but they get a victory. So I'm going to get to upgrade something, so that I don't have to reposition things. I'm going to upgrade this to the Marine regulars, and I got a kind of nice little success there, which means we're putting things back in the English hands. 2 of these go away. These are colonial regulars. We're on the English side. Let's see what the English get as their movement die roll. A lot of sea lift. I don't think I can really use that for anything. What I want to do here is I'm going to spend one of my actions to fortify Albany. Puts me down to 3. Now I want to send a force here, half a movement for the water. 1. And the other half there. I believe I'm allowed to do that. Do they have to be contiguous? Yeah, I think they do. I think these doubles mean that I have to do it contiguous, and I've kind of cheated that before, but we're close enough to the end here that we don't want to do that. Alternatively, I could sail up here to Fort Stanwix, and that puts me in a nice place. If I build a fort there, I'm in position to start threatening Duquesne. I'm sorry, that's Fort Frontenac. Duquesne's over here. Frontenac's the one I need to get. Unfortunately, I need to get more than one thing. I can't end up here because there's no town or anything there. Shit. I can't end up here because I don't have a fort there yet. I wouldn't have the movement. Well, I could send Courrier de Bois there to build it, actually. That's not the optimal location, but I think it's the best I can do. Would I have a river connection back home, though? No. So a fort here is not going to help me unless I control the lakeside. Oh. 1, 2. I could take this with my Rangers, and that would put me in a kind of nice position. I have 3 movement left. 1, 2, 3. I wouldn't be able to actually capture it. I'd have to spend another one to overrun it. Well, I have a lot of sea movement. Maybe I want to shift some troops back to New York and sail them up here. I think that's going to be my best move. So, one move. Just because I need, this at least gives me a chance of making a land attack on Quebec again. And I don't want to give up that space. I want to hold Albany pretty strongly, so that takes another move. Then I'll sail 1 to load, 2 to move, 3 to drop off, and that's all she wrote. Now I got to clean up my troops and basically Sachin. Those can stand. I don't know. I think I'm out of, I've got nothing but regulars here basically, and my Rangers. So that's the end of 1758 and the end of this video. As the Brits are having a hard time getting a grasp on the French. And you can see, you know, at times it looks like it's all over, but there is a lot of room to maneuver and kind of get out of the way. There's a lot of terrain here to deal with that makes it difficult for the British to just, you know, march up the lakes or something. It's tough terrain.